So I'm here at the Bernie Sanders rally in Los Angeles. We just saw Public Enemy take the stage. Chuck D endorsed Bernie Sanders. And I ran into Frances, and I wanted to speak with her because she's running for Congress in CD 34 against Jimmy Gomez. So ballots are coming in. Mail-in ballots have been sent. We have early voting sites going on already. How do you feel about your chances of beating Jimmy Gomez? It's been a long day.
I feel very, very good about my chances of coming in the top two and moving on to November, and then being Bernie Sanders' backup dancer in Congress, I would say.
That sounds like a much better plan than beating Bernie Sanders. So we have a semi-open primary here in California, so it's very possible, almost entirely likely, that we'll have two Democrats in the final race, not a Republican. Last time we had a Green Party member. So, but I say that you are more progressive, more to the left of Jimmy Gomez. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, very much so. I decided to challenge him when I realized that he wasn't co-sponsoring like a progressive. And it's kind of stuff that you don't really notice unless you dig a little below the surface, because generally votes the right way. But seeing how many bills he was missing on definitely started me looking deeper, and then seeing where his donor base, fossil fuels, hedge funds, Monsanto, private prisons, pharmaceuticals, insurance companies, and it made me realize that I just personally didn't think I could trust him to negotiate like the strongest Green New Deal for us and really, get the kind of Medicare for all plan that we need. I just feared that he'd be the guy watering down the bills. And it wasn't until a year later that I realized that I was the person to take him on. I knew someone had to, and then I just realized that I've got a large network and I like talking to people. And I will say it's just been an incredible adventure, huge learning experience. And I've just had the amazing opportunity, though, to spend this last year immersing myself in the district and just going out to every event, meeting as many people as I can. And I hear people want and they want a representative who's not sold out.
Yeah. So Jimmy Gomez has taken corporate money. I don't think that's any big secret. You've run a clean campaign, right? Only grassroots donors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's something you're proud of, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about your platform a little bit. You support the Green New Deal. You support Medicare for all. What are some of the other things that people might not know about?
Yeah, well, I think one of the primary issues is campaign finance reform, because that one issue will help change so many others, and that's overturning Citizens United. It's public financing of campaigns. I've realized running how much money in politics is, how expensive it is to run a campaign, but then, and why people then resort to taking the money. So changing that's going to be huge. I'm running on the homes guarantee, as Senator Sanders is as well, and I think that's incredible. We need that mass investment, especially for here in our district. My last 11 years was focused on U.S. foreign policy, nuclear disarmament, and there's several priorities there, including, ending this horrible war in Yemen, continuing to really build diplomatic efforts with North Korea, and figuring out how we avoid any kind of, World War III there. And just freeing up the Pentagon budget so we can get that money back here at home. So we need, all of it's really connected.
Yeah, we do. Our priorities are definitely not straight, in my opinion. The Pentagon budget is enormous. They don't even need all this money. So let's talk about the homes guarantee. Homelessness is a really big problem here in Los Angeles. It's a big problem in our district. Our district it's East LA, it's Northeast LA, it's parts of downtown, so Boyle Heights. So do you support safe parking lots as an interim thing? And what other aspects of details of that particular platform can you tell us about?
Yeah, so I definitely support a lot of the different actions happening at the city and county level, including the safe parking lots and various sanitation services that are finally starting to show up. I think that while I win this seat in Congress, will definitely use my influence to encourage those local representatives to stop taking developer money and, Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The state of California, the legislative body here is very much bought and paid for by real estate development money across the board. It's why we, and I think another thing to mention is Wendy Carrillo she doesn't support overturning Costa-Hawkins, which I think is a big problem. Costa-Hawkins was our state bill that took away local municipalities' ability to have rent control laws. Now, I know Gavin Newsom recently did sort of a watered down state bill on this, but the problem is that the horse has left the barn. We have to roll rents back. Even if they froze all the rents where they are right now, you still have 27-30% of the population can't afford to pay rent. I mean, minimum wage in the city is $15 an hour. Your average studio rental downtown is what, $2,300, $2,400? Do the math.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, so the Homes Guarantee, which was crafted by People's Action, which is a national coalition of progressive organizations, and they spent, I think, 18 months with, frontline people who are affected by the housing crisis, really figuring out what things would help. And one of those things is universal rent control, which I support. And I do additionally want to make sure that we provide tax credits for landlords who invest in improving their properties, because I think we need to make sure that everyone's getting the support they need to create good housing. I think that the Homes Guarantee as well includes a massive investment in public affordable housing that stays affordable. But a lot of the things that we can change on the federal level, I think, will directly impact the housing crisis. So getting Medicare for all would make sure that people don't fall into homelessness because they couldn't pay a medical bill. Ending the wars means we're going to stop cranking out vets who maybe aren't rehumanized into society the right way. Supporting queer youth that are getting kicked out of their homes.
Also trans rights, I would say. I mean, all of these things are so deeply intertwined together.
Yeah, and criminal justice reform. If you're a felon, sorry, people aren't renting you apartments and getting you jobs the way they if you've served your time. I mean, we need a forgiveness, and we need we can't just trash people because they make a mistake.
No, and I think another part of that conversation is a lot of the folks that are actually felons aren't even actually guilty of anything. The problem is our system is so push towards plea bargaining that a lot of times people will plead guilty because they can't afford to post bail. They think that if they go to trial, they might end up with a longer term. So the way the DA's office has handled criminal justice in the city hasn't been about justice at all. So a lot of the times people they'll take the guilty plea just to get the hell out of jail or get out because they can't post bail or whatever.
I was glad to hear Senator Sanders tonight talk about ending cash bail. I think that's hugely important. The fact that people are even sitting in jail without even being accused of anything. Yeah. It's jarring.
It's jarring. You literally have innocent people in the sense that they haven't been charged with anything, they've been accused of something, whatever, but they can't post bail. And sometimes they're in that circumstances for over a year. This is not unusual, and it's more or less criminalizing poverty, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, and we got to end it.
I agree. All right, what other parts of your platform did you want to tell folks about?
Gosh, well, I mean, I think that
I know it's been a long day.
I think that while Representative Gomez says he supports the Green New Deal, some of the Democrats are talking about like 2050 as a goal. I think that we need to be 2035. I just heard Senator Sanders is calling about 2030 for 100% renewable. And I think that unless we set our goal for ASAP.
Yeah, ASAP, yeah.
Yeah, let's give ourselves a little wiggle room to be late, but let's not set it for beyond. Yeah, that's not sustainable. If
we don't fix the planet, none of this other stuff we're discussing will even matter.
Yeah, and I just don't think that the representatives who are that invested in the fossil fuel industry or have that strong ties are going to move quick enough. It's just really hard to believe that they could.
No, I 100% agree with you. It's what I call implicit quid pro quo. So, so people often say, well, I want to see where's the paper trail of the quid pro quo. Well, there doesn't have to be an actual trail. If I give you $50,000 I don't have to ask you for anything exactly because you have in your head that I gave you $50,000. And that is going to influence your votes no matter what, especially if you're going to run for office again and you're going to be looking to get more money again. Like, this is just how the system works.
Here's something you might find interesting. Yeah, and I was going to say, here, speaking of like I'm a DCCC blacklist candidate, right? And so we know that
Because you're running against Jimmy Gomez.
Exactly. And, so I think that it baffles me, especially because we have a jungle primary system here in California. So our system is set up to encourage an evolution and like challenging within the party. So for the DCCC to create this blacklist, I also just think is like nonsensical because
It's jacked up.
yeah. But so one thing that I don't know if you caught this when so there was a story that came out February 1st on the AP about some challengers trying to push California further to the left.
Yeah.
And it got picked up on papers all across the country, including the New York Times and the Washington Post. And about 2 weeks later, it disappeared off the Washington Post and the New York Times websites. Those just aren't there. And I found out it's pretty rare that articles just disappear. But apparently someone didn't like that article being out there.
Well, I mean, the DCCC took a lot of slack for that, and they rightfully should. They should not be putting their thumb on the scale in a primary between people that are in the same primary. That's absolutely ridiculous. But the reason they're doing it is because they want to protect their corporate establishment candidates, because this is what, it's part of the what's the gristle that feeds the system, right? So they don't want to be challenged. But I think it's really wrong. I think it ended up angering a lot of voters. I think people are kind of fed up with that. Voters in the Democratic Party are most definitely fed up with that. And I think a majority of the Democratic base is more progressive than what the DCCC represents. So
100%. Yeah. No, I see it when I'm talking to voters. And actually, mind you, the DCCC blacklist was one of the final things that really tipped me in, because I was like,
you're like, this is my new selling point.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you can't. No, it's just ridiculous.
That's like your progressive bona fide right there. Honestly, it really is. It's almost like Bernie Sanders' list of anti-endorsements, right?
Yeah. And Senator Sanders, if you're listening, I look forward to receiving your endorsement someday. I know there's a lot. Politics is complicated, but and like I said, I feel very confident about coming in the top 2 on March 3rd, and there's going to be a window, since it's likely that the presidential primary won't really be sorted out by this Tuesday, but that gives me a window to only kind of force Representative Gomez to either show his true colors and come out for Bernie or not, and we'll see where he lies. So.
Yeah, so good luck on Tuesday. I'm pretty positive that it will be you and Jimmy in the final stretch. We'll have to have you in the podcast once that happens.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all that you do.